to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list.
Okay. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted. Every ballot is counted.
The president has so far outperformed pollsters' predictions, but the race remains tight in several key battlegrounds.
I'm Yalda Hakim, live from the battleground state of Wisconsin, where the Democrats say Joe Biden has won the state.
True for a key Trump ally in the Senate race as Democrats face an uphill battle to try and take control. As America wakes up without knowing who will be its next president, we'll look at the implications for an economy already battered by the pandemic.
I'm Samira Hussein on Wall Street as investors grapple with the uncertainty of this American election.
Welcome to BBC News. The hotly contested and highly divisive US election is still far from over, with the results too close to call and the outcome dependent on a handful of battleground states. Both candidates say they're on course for victory. Donald Trump says as far as he's concerned, he's already won, a claim which is not true because votes are still being counted. He's alleging fraud without any evidence and plans to go to the Supreme Court. His Democratic rival, Joe Biden, is urging patience, saying the election will not be over until every vote is counted. Well, the results so far are incredibly tight. Here are the latest Electoral College figures. It's very close, with Joe Biden on 224 votes and Donald Trump on 213. So far, Mr. Trump has taken the key states of Florida, Texas and Ohio, and it's neck and neck in Michigan and Nevada. Mr. Biden has taken the biggest prize of the night, California, and may have Arizona. All attention now is on the Rust Belt states of Wisconsin, Michigan and Pennsylvania, which are still to declare. Both candidates say they are confident of victory in these states, but the result could take days because of the high number of mail-in ballots. Well, this is the popular vote, neck and neck. Interesting to see, although of course it is only the Electoral College vote that actually clinches the White House. Our first report is from our correspondent in Washington, Ben Wright.
In the early hours of the morning, Donald Trump tried to discredit this election. Millions of votes have yet to be counted. Neither candidate has won. But speaking in the White House, the president prematurely claimed victory and then said this.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
For months, Donald Trump has claimed without any evidence that postal voting leads to fraud. This pandemic election saw tens of millions of Americans vote by mail, and in several key states, those legitimate ballots are still being processed. Mr. Trump has now threatened to go to the Supreme Court before the count is complete. This is uncharted territory for the United States.
We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list. Okay?
Joe Biden's team called the president's statement outrageous, unprecedented and incorrect. And when the Democratic candidate spoke to supporters, he told them to hold their nerve.
Your patience is commendable. We knew this was going to go long, but who knew we're going to go into maybe tomorrow morning, maybe even longer. But look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election.
At first, Americans watched election night unfold without drama. The two candidates clocking up states they were expected to win. But early results also pointed to a much tighter election than the polls had suggested. Democrats had dreamed of blocking Donald Trump's path to the White House by winning Florida, but the president's vote stayed strong.
President Trump has won Florida.
Joe Biden visited Ohio yesterday, but it too stayed red. It soon became clear that this would be another nail-biting race that would be decided by half a dozen states. In North Carolina, the Democratic governor called for patience.
I know that there are a lot of important races that are still too close to call. And we must let the process work to be sure that all the legal votes are counted.
In front of the White House on a street now known as Black Lives Matter Plaza, protesters met police. This is an anxious moment for a divided country. In the absence of a landslide win by one candidate, it was always possible this election could be dragged into the courts. Both sides have been preparing for a legal battle over postal votes that could tip the balance either way. Turnout in this election was huge, but a lengthy and contested wait for a result will keep this polarized nation on edge. Ben Wright, BBC News, Washington.
Let's go to Washington now and speak to the BBC's Laura Trevelyan. Laura, just talk us through the states that we are waiting for and how long could it be before we know those numbers?
So we're waiting for those states in the upper Midwest that Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, that Joe Biden is trying to get back. He's trying to rebuild that blue firewall in Pennsylvania, in Michigan and in Wisconsin. And we'll hear a little bit about Wisconsin in a minute because we have a correspondent there. That could come today. But Pennsylvania, they were only able to start tabulating their massive amounts of mail-in ballots yesterday, according to state law. So it could be a couple of days until we get those results. We're still waiting to hear about Nevada. They stopped the count there. They're going to start it again on Thursday morning. So it's still going to be a few days after really just an extraordinary night where President Trump did exactly what his campaign had been saying he was going to do and bring in people who didn't vote necessarily in 2016 but liked what they saw in the Trump brand. He did better than expected with black voters, with Hispanic voters. Joe Biden did only slightly better with older voters, did well with suburban voters. But what we have in the end is a deeply polarized country and a very close race.
And can you just explain, obviously we saw the president earlier a few hours ago declaring that he is winning, but that they could take this to the Supreme Court. What broadly are the legal routes to challenge any vote counting?
Well, the president's campaign was going to court long before Election Day, and they lost all of the significant legal challenges. They were trying to argue that mail-in ballots couldn't be counted after Election Day in states which had already said that they could be. So it's hard to know what the basis for the president's legal challenge will be. It's more of a political statement to his supporters, essentially that we're not going to accept the result if votes are counted after Election Day. So what he said is that this is a fraud on the American public. We'll be going to the Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. Well, voting has stopped. It's counting that's still going on. And it seems unlikely that he can stop the count anywhere because currently it's going on as state laws are allowing. But maybe what's more likely is that the Republican campaign will claim to have found evidence of fraud in different polling stations. They were sending election observers to polling stations across America, and it may be that today what we see are challenges based on the size of the margin in some of these states, based on the fact that unfair practices were going on or something illegal was happening, the campaign will claim. So I'm sure that we'll see the first of those challenges filed today.
Very interesting, Laura. Thanks very much indeed for now there in Washington. Well, the battle for Wisconsin is absolutely neck and neck. In 2016, Donald Trump managed to flip the state after decades of Democratic wins. With 10 electoral college votes, it is a crucial state for both sides. This is where things currently stand. As we see, Joe Biden for Democrats on 49.3%, Trump on 49%, and that is with 98% of votes counted. Still waiting for the final results there to come in. Let's go to Wisconsin. My colleague Yalda Hakim is there for us. What are you hearing, Yalda, about how long it's going to take now to get this result?
Well, Geeta, it really has been a nail-biter. We're now hearing that 99% of the votes have been counted. There isn't an official result, but we have heard from the chairperson of the Democratic Party here in Wisconsin. I'm just going to read you his tweet. He says, Green Bay and Kenosha results are in. Biden is now up in Wisconsin by roughly 20,600 votes. That number could wobble a bit, but there's no realistic path for Donald Trump to pull ahead. Biden has won more votes than any presidential candidate in Wisconsin history. So that's the Democratic Party there declaring victory here in Wisconsin. But as I said, there's still no official declaration for either candidate at this stage. And as you say, it's so narrow. You'll remember in 2016, Trump won this state by less than 23,000 votes. It appears that it's even narrower this time with less than 21,000 votes. With me now here is Jessie Oppion from the Capital Times. She's the opinion editor, and let's just ask her some of these questions, some crucial things here, because it's so incredibly tight, and we knew it would be tight.
We knew it would be tight, and somehow it was still more dramatic, I think, than any of us expected. It really, as we looked through the night last night, we saw all of those in-person vote totals, and it looked like it could go one way, and absentee votes coming in, and it starts flipping in those cities like Milwaukee, Green Bay, Kenosha, all those kind of crucial votes coming in in the last hours. And like you said, it's a really close margin, about as close as, if not closer than, 2016. Although not as close as 2004 and 2000. So there is a history of close elections here in Wisconsin, and we're following that path.
Very much so. It's lived up to its name of being a purple battleground state. What I find interesting is an area called Green Bay in the north has become somewhere where we're really focusing our attention, because they are the blue-collar workers that became Donald Trump's base. And it appears, from what we can see, based on the 99% of votes counted, that it may have gone to Joe Biden.
Yeah, in Green Bay, in Brown County, northeastern Wisconsin. I actually grew up about an hour north of there, so pretty familiar with the area. And it's been one of the hardest hit by coronavirus in the state. A lot of early outbreaks, particularly among the meatpacking plants up there, and it really never got reined in. The hospitals are struggling, they're having to send patients elsewhere, and that's really impacted the area. Not to mention the Green Bay Packers, our NFL team play there. They haven't been able to have fans at the stadiums. That's got a really big economic impact on the area.
Talk us through recount, because a state like Wisconsin doesn't have an automatic recount, but you can request one.
That's right. So in 2016, Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, requested a recount. She really didn't have a shot of winning that, but she did. And after that, the legislature passed a law to limit that a little bit. So in Wisconsin, if you come within 1 percentage point of the winning margin, you can request a recount. You do have to pay for it yourself, unless you come in within 0.25%, and then the state will take on the cost.
We always said that the coronavirus would be on the ballot for Wisconsin. It's one of the worst affected states, and it feels like in a place like Green Bay, Kenosha, some of these places that are worst affected, it really has been the case.
It really does. I mean, the public health element of it is huge, and the economic element of it is huge. People are struggling, and they're struggling because they're losing loved ones. They're struggling because they're afraid of getting sick. They're struggling because they can't send their kids back to school, and because they can't go to work. And we're seeing that reflected, I think, in these vote totals.
And we were just talking there about the recount. Of course, if it's 1% or less, Trump can request a recount. That's basically where we're at now.
That's right, and it does sound, based on his comments last night, like he's not going to give this up easily if it's very close. So we can potentially expect that.
Jessie, good to talk to you. Thank you very much. As you say, we will be watching Wisconsin very closely because we could find out either way, and it is appearing to be going Joe Biden's way at this point in Wisconsin.
Yada Hakeem, many thanks there in Wisconsin, a key state there. Another key state is Pennsylvania, and it has carried for the Republicans for Donald Trump in 2016. If Trump doesn't win Pennsylvania, he has to win all the remaining 5 battleground states to get back to the White House. This is how it stands. At present, Donald Trump on 55%, Joe Biden on 44%, with 76% of the vote currently counted. Too early to project Pennsylvania as yet. Let us speak to Madeleine Dean, the US representative for Pennsylvania's 4th Congressional District. She joins me now from Jenkintown. Thanks for joining us. Of course, the polls projected before the election day today a huge
right
win
outside of Philadelphia, it's Jenkintown, suburb of
predicting
Philly.
a huge win. Have the Democrats calibrated this race incorrectly?
I don't.
Dang. Wi-Fi. Hopefully we'll be getting back for us in a little bit. Good old dams. Try to multitask here. The Wi-Fi just went out.
Keep that on, Bree Bree.
And looks like it's out. So we'll be getting back to you in a little bit, and that's a cut for now.